Sarah Chen adjusted her glasses and stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. The equations dancing in the blue light made perfect sense to her, but she knew they would change everything. At 19, she was the youngest student ever admitted to the Galactic Institute of Advanced Sciences on Kepler Station. Her human heritage made her an oddity among the predominantly alien student body. But her brilliant mind had earned her respect. The problem she was working on had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for centuries. How do you create sustainable energy that could power entire star systems without depleting natural resources? The Zephyrian Empire, which controlled most of the known galaxy, had been searching for this solution desperately. Their current energy methods were destroying planets at an alarming rate. Sarah's roommate, Kixara, a blue-skinned Altarian with 4 arms, walked into their shared dormitory. Her large purple eyes immediately noticed Sarah's intense concentration. "Still working on the impossible energy problem?" Kixara asked, her voice carrying the musical tone typical of her species. "You know, even Professor Veltar gave up on that research after 40 years. Sarah smiled without looking away from her work. "That's because they're all thinking about it wrong. They keep trying to extract energy from existing sources. But what if we could create energy from nothing?" Kixara's eyes widened. In Altarian culture, such a statement bordered on blasphemy. "Sarah, you can't create something from nothing. That violates the fundamental laws of physics." "Human physics," Sarah corrected. "But humans have a habit of breaking rules that other species consider absolute." For the past 6 months, Sarah had been secretly studying quantum mechanics in ways that other species had never considered. Humans, she realized, had a unique ability to think outside conventional frameworks. While other species accepted limitations, humans constantly pushed boundaries. Sarah's fingers danced across the holographic interface, manipulating complex equations. She had discovered something extraordinary in Earth's ancient scientific literature. A human scientist named Tesla had theorized about extracting energy from the quantum vacuum. Most alien scientists had dismissed this as primitive human thinking, but Sarah saw genius in it. The breakthrough came at 3 a.m. station time. Sarah's calculations suddenly aligned, showing a way to tap into the zero-point energy field that existed everywhere in space. The energy was infinite, clean, and accessible from any location in the universe. Her hands trembled as she realized what she had accomplished. "Kixara, wake up," Sarah whispered urgently. "I did it." "I actually did it." Her roommate groggily lifted her head from her sleeping pod. "Did what?" "I solved the energy crisis. Look at this." Sarah projected her calculations into the room's central display. Kixara studied the equations, her 4 arms moving frantically as she tried to comprehend what she was seeing. "This is impossible. You're showing energy creation rates that exceed anything we've ever imagined." "Not impossible, just very human," Sarah grinned. "I need to present this to the faculty committee tomorrow." But neither of them noticed the small surveillance device hidden in their room's ventilation system. The device belonged to Agent Thax, a high-ranking intelligence officer in the Zephyrian Empire. He had been monitoring Sarah ever since she arrived at the station. Humans were considered unpredictable and potentially dangerous by the Empire's leadership. As Sarah's discovery transmitted to Thax's ship orbiting the station, alarms began sounding in the Empire's intelligence headquarters. Within minutes, Emperor Zephyron himself was awakened and briefed on the situation. "A human child has solved our greatest challenge?" The Emperor's voice carried disbelief and anger. "This cannot be allowed to become public knowledge. The Empire's energy monopoly was the foundation of their power. They controlled civilization by controlling energy distribution. If Sarah's discovery became known, it would end their dominance overnight. Every species in the galaxy would have access to unlimited free energy. Issue immediate orders," the Emperor commanded. "The human must be captured or eliminated. Her research must be destroyed." Back on the station, Sarah was unaware of the danger approaching. She spent the rest of the night refining her calculations and preparing her presentation. She dreamed of a galaxy where energy poverty no longer existed, where every planet could thrive without environmental destruction. The next morning, Sarah walked confidently toward the faculty presentation hall. Students from dozens of species filled the corridors, all heading to their morning classes. The station hummed with the sounds of galactic civilization, the clicking of insectoid languages, the harmonic tones of energy beings, and the deep rumbles of silicon-based life forms. Professor Veltar, an ancient crystalline being who had taught at the Institute for over 2 centuries, greeted Sarah outside the presentation hall. "I understand you believe you've made progress on the energy problem, young human. I admire your optimism, though I fear you may be disappointed. I think you'll be surprised." "Professor?" Sarah replied respectfully. As she entered the hall, Sarah noticed several unfamiliar faces in the audience. They wore the dark uniforms of Imperial security forces, though she didn't recognize the significance. Her focus was entirely on her presentation. Sarah activated the room's holographic display and began explaining her discovery. As her equations filled the space above the gathered faculty, excited murmurs rippled through the audience. The professors leaned forward, their various sensory organs focused intently on her work. "This is remarkable," whispered Dr. Quintel, a floating, gas-based entity who specialized in theoretical physics. "If these calculations are correct, she's revolutionized our understanding of energy." But the Imperial agents in the audience were not impressed by the scientific breakthrough. They were calculating how quickly they could contain the situation. One agent quietly activated a communication device, sending a signal to the Imperial fleet waiting just outside the station's sensor range. Sarah concluded her presentation to thunderous applause from the faculty. Various professors rushed forward to examine her work more closely, their excitement palpable. This was the kind of discovery that happened once in a millennium. "Miss Chen," Professor Veltar announced formally, "the faculty committee unanimously agrees that your research represents a breakthrough of unprecedented importance. We will immediately begin the process of submitting your work to the Galactic Scientific Council." Sarah's heart soared. Her discovery would soon benefit everyone in the galaxy. But as she gathered her data crystals preparing to leave the hall, the Imperial agents moved to block the exits. "Sarah Chen," the lead agent announced in the universal trade language, "by order of the Zephyrian Empire, you are under arrest for crimes against galactic security." The presentation hall erupted in chaos as Imperial agents moved toward Sarah. Professor Veltar's crystalline form flashed with angry red light, a sign of extreme distress among his species. "This is a scientific institution," the professor declared, his voice resonating through the chamber. "You have no authority here." The lead agent, a tall reptilian Zephyrian with cold yellow eyes, held up an official Imperial decree. "This human is now classified as a threat to galactic stability. Her research has been deemed dangerous technology that cannot be allowed to spread." Sarah felt her world crashing down around her. She had spent months perfecting her discovery, dreaming of how it would help billions of beings across the galaxy. Now they were calling it dangerous? "My research creates clean energy," she protested. "How is that dangerous?" "Because it threatens the natural order," the agent replied coldly. "The Empire maintains peace through controlled resource distribution. Your technology would destabilize that system." Several faculty members moved to surround Sarah protectively. Dr. Quintel's gaseous form swirled with agitation while Professor Veltar planted himself firmly between Sarah and the agents. "They say, girl has committed no crime," Professor Veltar stated. "Scientific discovery is not illegal under Galactic Education Treaty provisions." The Zephyrian agent's hand moved to the energy weapon at his side. "Stand aside, Professor. This matter concerns Imperial security." Sarah's mind raced as she realized the true implications of the situation. The Empire wasn't afraid of her technology being dangerous. They were afraid of losing their power. Her discovery would make their energy monopoly worthless overnight. "You're scared," she said suddenly, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "You're not protecting the galaxy from dangerous technology. You're protecting your empire from freedom." The agent's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Enough talk! Surrender the research data and come quietly." But Sarah had not survived as the only human in an alien academic environment by being passive. She had learned to think quickly and act decisively. While the agents focused on the professors, she quietly activated an emergency protocol she had built into her personal data device. The protocol was something uniquely human, a concept her alien classmates had never understood. She called it digital rebellion. Instead of simply storing her research safely, she had created a program that would broadcast her discoveries across the entire galactic communication network if she was ever threatened. "I'm sorry," she said to the agent, "but I can't let you suppress this discovery." She pressed a hidden button on her data device. Instantly, her complete research data began transmitting to every major university, scientific institution, and communication hub in the galaxy. The broadcast was unstoppable. She had designed it to replicate itself and continue spreading even if the original source was destroyed. The lead agent lunged forward, but Professor Veltar moved with surprising speed for a crystalline being. His massive form blocked the agent's path while Dr. Quintel engulfed Sarah in his gaseous embrace, preparing to carry her to safety. "Run, Sarah," Kixara shouted from the audience. She had arrived just in time to witness the confrontation. The hall's emergency systems activated as the broadcast began. Alarms wailed throughout the station as the Imperial agents realized what Sarah had done. Within minutes, her discovery would be known across half the galaxy. Dr. Quintel carried Sarah through the station's ventilation systems, his gaseous form allowing them to move through spaces too small for the pursuing agents. Sarah's heart pounded as she heard the sounds of conflict echoing through the corridors behind them. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To the docking bay," Dr. Quintel replied, his voice strangely calm despite their desperate situation. "I have a research vessel there. We need to get you off this station before the Imperial fleet arrives." As they moved through the station, Sarah's communication device buzzed constantly with incoming messages. Universities across the galaxy were confirming receipt of her research data. Scientists on dozens of worlds were already beginning to replicate her experiments. "It's working," she whispered in amazement. "The information is spreading faster than they can stop it, but their escape was far from guaranteed." The station's security systems, now under Imperial control, began sealing off sections to trap them. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut ahead of them, forcing Dr. Quintel to find alternate routes through the station's maze-like interior. They reached the docking bay just as Imperial reinforcements arrived on the station. Dr. Quintel's research vessel was a sleek Altarian design, built for speed rather than combat. As they boarded, Sarah could see Imperial ships surrounding the station through the viewport. "They're jamming all communication channels," Dr. Quintel observed as he activated the ship's systems. "But it's too late. Your broadcast has already reached the core worlds." The ship launched just as Imperial forces breached the docking bay. Energy weapons fired past them as Dr. Quintel pushed the engines to maximum power. Sarah watched Kepler Station shrink behind them, knowing she might never see her academic home again. "Where will we go?" Sarah asked two allies. Dr. Quintel replied mysteriously. "Your discovery has made you the most wanted person in the galaxy, but it has also made you very valuable to those who oppose the Empire." As they jumped to hyperspace, Sarah received one final message on her personal communicator. It was from Kixara, transmitted seconds before Imperial forces seized control of the station systems. "Sarah, your research worked. The first successful test was completed on Altair Prime 20 minutes ago. They're calling it the Chen Drive. The Empire has already lost control of 3 systems where planets are declaring energy independence. You did it. You're changing everything." Sarah smiled through her tears. She was now a fugitive, hunted by the most powerful empire in the galaxy. But her discovery was free, spreading from world to world like a wildfire of hope. For the first time in galactic history, unlimited clean energy was available to everyone. The human girl who had just wanted to solve a scientific problem had accidentally started a revolution. Behind them, Emperor Zephron's personal flagship emerged from hyperspace near Kepler Station. The Emperor's rage was terrible to behold as reports poured in from across his empire. World after world was beginning to implement the humans' technology, breaking free from Imperial energy dependence. "Find her," the Emperor commanded his fleet. "Find the human and bring me her head. The future of our empire depends on it." But Sarah Chen was no longer just a student. She had become something far more dangerous to those who would control others. She had become a symbol of human ingenuity and the power of knowledge to set people free. 3 days after escaping Kepler Station, Sarah found herself on a hidden rebel base built inside a massive asteroid in the Omega Nebula. The base was home to the Galactic Liberation Front, a diverse group of species who opposed the Zephyrian Empire's authoritarian rule. Dr. Quintel had delivered her safely to Commander Raxel, a grizzled Corathian warrior whose species had been enslaved by the Empire for 2 centuries. The commander's 4 muscular arms and battle-scarred hide spoke of countless conflicts, but his eyes held genuine warmth when he looked at Sarah. So you're the little human who's turned the galaxy upside down, Raxel said, his deep voice rumbling through the base's central command chamber. In 3 days, your energy discovery has sparked rebellions on 47 worlds. Sarah stared at the holographic display showing the galaxy's current state. Red zones marked Imperial-controlled systems, blue showed rebel territories, and yellow indicated worlds in active revolt. The yellow zones were spreading rapidly. I never meant to start a war, Sarah said quietly. I just wanted to solve an energy problem. Sometimes the best revolutions begin with the simplest intentions, replied Dr. Linara, the base's chief scientist. She was a tall, graceful being from a species that looked like living silver trees. Your discovery doesn't just provide free energy. It breaks the Empire's primary method of control. The rebel base was a marvel of hidden engineering. Carved deep within the asteroid, it housed thousands of freedom fighters from dozens of species. Sarah had never seen such diversity working together toward a common goal. There were insectoid beings from the hive clusters, aquatic creatures in mobile water suits from the ocean worlds, and even several energy-based life forms like Dr. Quintel. The Empire is mobilizing their entire fleet to find you, Commander Raxel explained as new intelligence reports arrived. They've placed a bounty on your head worth more than most planets' annual budgets. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Millions of beings across the galaxy were risking their lives because of her discovery. What can I do to help? I'm just a student. You're much more than that now, Dr. Linara said gently. Your research has given us hope, but we need more than energy technology to defeat the Empire. We need weapons, ships, and strategies that can match their military might. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She wandered the base's corridors, marveling at the rebel society that had formed in secret. In the hydroponics bay, she met Zekako, a young insectoid engineer who had been working to improve their ship's defensive systems. Human Sarah, Zekako clicked in the universal trade language. Your energy equations have given our ships unlimited power, but Empire weapons still penetrate our shields. Can human ingenuity solve this problem too? Sarah studied the shield technology schematics that Zekako showed her. The rebel ships used conventional energy barriers that required massive power to maintain, but her human perspective suggested a different approach entirely. What if we don't try to stop their weapons? She mused. What if we redirect them instead? Over the next several days, Sarah worked with the rebel engineers to develop revolutionary defensive technology. Instead of creating stronger barriers, they designed adaptive shields that could bend enemy fire around their ships. The concept was based on human understanding of physics that other species had never explored. Her breakthrough came when she realized that her zero-point energy discovery could power more than just ships and cities. It could manipulate space-time itself on a small scale. By creating tiny gravitational fields around their vessels, rebel ships could deflect incoming attacks without requiring massive energy expenditure. It's brilliant, Dr. Linara admitted as they tested the first prototype. Empire weapons designed to overwhelm traditional shields are useless against deflection fields. But Sarah's innovations caught the attention of someone unexpected. Agent Thax, the Imperial spy who had first discovered her research, arrived at the rebel base under a flag of truce. His presence sent shockwaves through the rebel command structure. I come with an offer from Emperor Zephyron himself, Thax announced to the assembled rebel leaders. Surrender the human girl and her research, and the Empire will grant amnesty to all rebel forces. Commander Raxel's 4 arms tensed for combat. We don't negotiate with slavers. Think carefully, Thax continued. The Emperor's fleet now numbers over 10,000 ships. Your rebellion, while inspiring, cannot hope to defeat such a force. But the Emperor is prepared to be merciful if the human is returned. Sarah stepped forward before anyone could stop her. And what happens to the billions of beings who have already gained energy independence? Do they go back to Imperial control? Thax's reptilian features showed genuine surprise. You would sacrifice yourself for alien strangers? They're not strangers anymore, Sarah replied firmly. They're fighting for the same thing humans have always believed in, the right to determine their own destiny. The spy's yellow eyes studied her carefully. Your species continues to confuse me. Most beings act primarily from self-interest, but humans seem to possess an irrational willingness to sacrifice for abstract principles. It's not irrational, Sarah said. It's what makes us human. After Thax left with the rebels' refusal of the Empire's offer, Sarah threw herself into developing more revolutionary technologies. She worked with Korgan, a massive silicon-based engineer to create new propulsion systems that could outmaneuver Imperial ships. With Tala, a brilliant energy being, she designed communication networks that could operate faster than Imperial jamming systems. Each innovation built upon her original energy discovery, but applied human creativity in ways that amazed her alien colleagues. Where other species saw limitations, Sarah saw opportunities for lateral thinking. The human brain approaches problems differently than any other species we've encountered, Dr. Linara observed during one of their working sessions. You consistently find solutions that exist outside conventional thinking patterns. Sarah's reputation was growing beyond just her energy discovery. Rebel cells across the galaxy were requesting human-style solutions to their tactical problems. She found herself consulting on everything from supply logistics to propaganda strategies, but the Empire was not idle during this time. Intelligence reports showed massive fleet movements as Imperial forces positioned themselves for a decisive strike against the rebellion. Emperor Zephyron had decided that negotiation was pointless. The rebellion would be crushed through overwhelming force. "They're coming," Commander Raxel announced during an emergency briefing. "Our scouts report the main Imperial fleet will reach this sector within 2 standard days." Sarah looked around the command chamber at beings who had become her friends and allies. Brave soldiers from dozens of worlds were preparing to fight against impossible odds. The weight of their hope and trust felt heavier than any scientific problem she had ever tackled. "Then we need to be ready for them," she said quietly, "and I think I know how we can turn their strength against them." As the rebel base prepared for the coming battle, Sarah worked feverishly on her most ambitious project yet, a way to use the Empire's own massive fleet size as a vulnerability rather than an advantage. The solution would require every bit of human ingenuity she possessed, combined with the diverse skills of her alien allies. The fate of galactic freedom would soon depend on whether a 19-year-old human student could outthink the most powerful military force in known space. The Imperial fleet that emerged from hyperspace near the Omega Nebula was a sight that would have terrified any conventional enemy. Over 8,000 warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the dark metal alloys that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Emperor Zephyron's flagship, the Dominion, led the armada like a massive predator stalking its prey. Inside the asteroid base, Sarah watched the approaching fleet through long-range sensors. Her stomach twisted with fear, but her mind remained focused on the plan she had developed. It was audacious, dangerous, and completely insane by conventional military standards, which made it perfectly human. "Sarah, their firepower exceeds our defensive capabilities by a factor of 50, Dr. Linara reported, her silver form flickering with anxiety. "Even with your shield modifications, we cannot withstand a direct assault. We're not going to fight them directly," Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "We're going to make them fight themselves." Commander Raxel studied her tactical proposal with growing amazement. "You want us to hide our entire fleet inside the nebula's gas clouds and then trick the Imperial ships into firing on each other?" "It's more complex than that," Sarah explained. "The Empire's strength comes from their coordinated fleet tactics, but those same tactics become a weakness when their targeting systems can't distinguish friend from foe." Sarah's plan exploited a fundamental flaw in Imperial military doctrine. Their ships were designed to operate in massive formations, with automated systems handling fleet coordination. But those same systems relied on specific identification signals to prevent friendly fire incidents. Working with Tala, the energy being who specialized in communication systems, Sarah had developed a way to disrupt and duplicate Imperial identification codes. During the chaos of battle, rebel ships could broadcast false signals that would make Imperial vessels appear to be enemy targets to their own fleet. "The psychological impact will be devastating," Sarah continued her briefing. "Imagine being an Imperial captain and suddenly your own flagship appears to be firing on you. Their rigid command structure won't be able to adapt quickly enough to counter the confusion." Zekiko, the insectoid engineer, clicked excitedly. "Human tactical thinking is most unusual. Other species plan battles, but humans plan chaos." As the Imperial fleet approached the nebula's edge, the rebels enacted Sarah's strategy. Their ships, equipped with her revolutionary stealth technology, merged seamlessly with the gas clouds that filled the region. The nebula's natural electromagnetic interference would make detection difficult even under normal circumstances. But Sarah's modifications made the rebel vessels virtually invisible. The first phase began when Imperial scouts entered the nebula's outer regions. Rebel ships, broadcasting perfectly mimicked Imperial identification codes, appeared on Imperial sensors as friendly vessels on routine patrol. When the main fleet arrived, their tactical computers registered the hidden rebels as part of their own forces. Phase 1 complete, reported Captain Vexer, commander of the Rebel Strike Force. Imperial fleet has entered the nebula and accepted our false identification signals. Sarah monitored the Imperial communications channels from the asteroid base. Emperor Zephyron's voice crackled across the frequencies as he directed his massive fleet into the nebula's heart. Spread out in attack formation, the rebels are hiding somewhere in these gas clouds. When we find them, show no mercy. But the Emperor's tactical advantage was about to become his greatest vulnerability. As his ship spread throughout the nebula, Sarah initiated Phase 2 of her plan. Now, she whispered into her communicator. Rebel ships throughout the nebula suddenly changed their identification codes. Imperial vessels that had been reading them as friendly forces now saw them as enemy contacts. But the chaos didn't stop there. Sarah's program began randomly switching the identification codes of genuine Imperial ships as well. The result was immediate and devastating. Imperial captains watched in horror as their own tactical displays showed friendly vessels suddenly appearing as hostile targets. Decades of training kicked in as automated systems began targeting what they perceived as enemy ships. Dominion. "This is Captain Morak of the Devastator," one Imperial captain transmitted frantically. "Your ship is showing as hostile on our sensors. What are your orders?" Emperor Zephyron's confusion was evident in his response. "There must be some technical malfunction. All ships verify your identification codes immediately." But Sarah's program was too sophisticated for simple verification procedures. It continuously cycled through different combinations, creating an ever-changing pattern of false targets throughout the Imperial fleet. Within minutes, Imperial ships were accidentally firing on each other while rebel vessels remained undetected in the chaos. Direct hit on Imperial cruiser, Subjugator. Captain Vexer reported. Target destroyed by friendly fire from their own battleship, Iron Fist. The psychological impact on Imperial forces was exactly what Sarah had predicted. These were soldiers trained to follow orders without question, operating in rigid formations that had conquered countless worlds. Suddenly finding themselves in a situation where their own fleet appeared to be turning against them, shattered their confidence and coordination. "All ships, cease fire immediately," Emperor Zephyron commanded. "There will be no firing until we resolve this sensor malfunction." But Sarah had anticipated this response. As Imperial ships tried to regroup and sort out the identification chaos, rebel forces initiated Phase 3. Hidden throughout the nebula, rebel ships began actual attacks on Imperial vessels while continuing to broadcast Imperial identification codes. From the Imperial perspective, their own ships appeared to be ignoring the Emperor's ceasefire order and continuing to attack friendly targets. The distinction between technical malfunction and actual rebellion became impossible to determine. Dominion. "This is Admiral Kexlar," came a desperate transmission from deep within the fleet. "Multiple ships in Sector 7 are firing on my battle group. Are we under attack by rebels, or is this still the identification problem?" Sarah watched the Imperial fleet tear itself apart through a combination of friendly fire, genuine rebel attacks, and complete command breakdown. The Emperor's 8,000 ships, which should have been an overwhelming advantage, had become a chaotic liability. "Human tactical doctrine is most effective," Zekiko observed with admiration. "You have turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness." But Sarah knew the battle was far from over. Emperor Zephyron was a cunning leader who would eventually adapt to the situation. The rebels needed to press their advantage while the Imperial fleet remained confused and disorganized. "All rebel units begin Phase 4, Sarah transmitted. "Target their command and control ships. If we can disrupt their communication network, they won't be able to coordinate a response." Rebel strike teams, led by some of the galaxy's most skilled pilots, began surgical attacks on Imperial command vessels. Using Sarah's deflection shields and stealth technology, they struck at the heart of the enemy fleet while remaining nearly invisible to Imperial sensors. The Dominion itself came under attack as a small group of rebel fighters, led by Captain Vexir, penetrated the flagship's defensive perimeter. Emperor Zephyron watched in disbelief as his own tactical displays showed the attacking ships with Imperial identification codes. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his technical staff. "These ships appear to be from our own fleet." Agent Thax, monitoring the battle from the bridge, finally understood what was happening. "Emperor, this is not a technical malfunction. The human has found a way to manipulate our identification systems. She's making our own fleet attack itself while hiding her forces among us." The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury as he realized how thoroughly he had been outmaneuvered by a teenage human. Clever little creature. But two can play at electronic warfare. "Thax, activate the Omega Protocol." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as new signals began emanating from the Imperial flagship. The Omega Protocol was something she had only heard whispered about in intelligence reports. A last-resort Imperial weapon that she didn't fully understand. The battle was about to enter a deadly new phase. The Omega Protocol activated with a deep, resonant pulse that seemed to shake the very fabric of space-time itself. Sarah watched in horror as the energy wave spread from the Dominion throughout the nebula, and she realized what Emperor Zephyron had just unleashed. "It's a quantum disruption field," Dr. Linara gasped, her silver form flickering erratically. "They're destabilizing the fundamental forces that hold matter together." Sarah's blood ran cold as the implications hit her. The Omega Protocol wasn't just a weapon. It was a doomsday device that would destroy everything in the nebula, Imperial and Rebel forces alike. The Emperor was willing to sacrifice his entire fleet to ensure that Sarah and her technology never escaped. "All ships, emergency retreat," Commander Raxel transmitted to the Rebel fleet. "The Empire is activating a total annihilation weapon." But escape was impossible. The quantum disruption field was expanding faster than any ship could travel, and it was growing stronger with each passing second. Sarah watched helplessly as the nearest Rebel vessels began to lose structural integrity, their hulls dissolving as the fundamental forces holding their atoms together weakened. "Emperor Zephyron has gone insane." Captain Vexir's voice crackled over the communications as his ship struggled to maintain cohesion. "He's willing to destroy his own fleet just to kill one human." Sarah's mind raced as she analyzed the quantum disruption field's energy patterns. There had to be a way to stop it, or at least counteract its effects. Her zero-point energy discovery had taught her that the universe's fundamental forces were more flexible than most species believed. "Intala," she called to the energy being. "Can you analyze the disruption field's frequency? I need to understand exactly how it's affecting quantum coherence." The energy being's form swirled with intense concentration as it interfaced directly with the Rebel base's sensors. "The field operates by inducing random quantum state changes in matter. It's essentially forcing atoms to forget how to stick together." An impossible idea began forming in Sarah's mind. If the disruption field worked by randomizing quantum states, then perhaps she could create a coherence field that would restore order to the chaos. It would require every bit of knowledge she had gained about zero-point energy manipulation, but it might be possible. "I need access to the base's main power core," Sarah announced. "And I need every Rebel ship still capable of receiving transmissions to link their energy systems to mine." "What are you planning?" Commander Raxel demanded. "Something that's either brilliant or completely insane," Sarah replied. "I'm going to try to create a quantum coherence field that can counteract the disruption effect." Dr. Linara's form brightened with sudden understanding. "You want to use your zero-point energy technology to restore quantum stability to the region. But Sarah, the power requirements would be enormous." "That's why I need every ship's energy core linked to the network," Sarah explained as she raced toward the base's power systems. "If we can synchronize all our zero-point generators, we might have enough power to stabilize the entire nebula." As Sarah worked frantically to modify the base's power core, the quantum disruption field continued its deadly expansion. Imperial ships throughout the nebula were dissolving into clouds of unbound particles, their crews dying as their very bodies lost molecular cohesion. Even Emperor Zephyron was beginning to realize the magnitude of his mistake. "Thax, how long until the disruption field reaches the Dominion?" "Approximately 14 minutes, Emperor," the spy replied grimly. "The field is expanding exponentially. Can it be reversed?" "No, my lord. The Omega Protocol is designed to be irreversible. Once activated, It continues until all matter in the target region is reduced to quantum foam. Sarah's modifications to the power core were complete, but she needed time to synchronize the energy patterns of every rebel ship still operational. The quantum coherence field would have to match the exact frequency of the disruption effect, but in reverse, essentially teaching atoms how to bind together again. All rebel vessels, prepare to link your zero-point generators to my command frequency, Sarah transmitted. This is going to require perfect synchronization. The response from the rebel fleet was immediate and unanimous. Even ships that were already beginning to lose structural integrity diverted their last reserves of power to Sarah's network. Beings from dozens of species were trusting their lives to a human teenager's impossible plan. Synchronization at 60%, Entala reported, but several ships are losing power as the disruption field weakens their energy cores. Sarah gritted her teeth and pushed the base's power systems beyond their design limits. The quantum coherence field began to manifest as a brilliant blue wave spreading outward from the asteroid base. Where it intersected with the disruption field, reality seemed to stabilize, atoms remembering how to maintain their bonds. "It's working," Captain Vexer's voice carried amazement and relief. "The disruption field is weakening in our sector." But Sarah's effort was taking an enormous toll. The synchronized energy drain from dozens of ships was overloading the base's power systems, and she could feel the strain affecting her own body as she maintained direct control over the quantum frequencies. "Sarah, you need to reduce the power output," Dr. Linara warned. "The energy levels are approaching critical overload." "I can't," Sarah gasped, her hands trembling as she fought to maintain the delicate balance of forces. "If I reduce power now, the coherence field will collapse and the disruption effect will resume." Aboard the Dominion, Emperor Zephyron watched in disbelief as the seemingly unstoppable quantum disruption field began to weaken and retreat. "How is this possible?" "No technology in the galaxy can counter the Omega Protocol." Agent Thax studied the sensor readings with growing amazement. "It appears to be some form of quantum coherence restoration, Emperor. The human has found a way to counteract our ultimate weapon." The Emperor's rage was terrible to behold. Everything he had believed about Imperial technological supremacy was crumbling before his eyes. A 19-year-old human student had not only sparked a galaxy-wide rebellion, but was now demonstrating abilities that surpassed the Empire's most advanced weapons. "Prepare. My personal combat suit," Zephyron commanded. "If this human wants to challenge the Empire, she will face its Emperor directly." Back on the asteroid base, Sarah's quantum coherence field was winning the battle against the disruption effect, but the victory was coming at great cost. Several rebel ships had already lost power completely, their crews evacuated to other vessels. The base's own power core was showing dangerous stress readings. "Sarah, you're killing yourself," Commander Raxel observed as she struggled to maintain control. "Your vital signs are becoming erratic." "Almost there," Sarah whispered. "The disruption field is almost completely neutralized. Just need to maintain coherence for a few more minutes." But those few minutes stretched into an eternity as Sarah fought to keep reality itself stable in the face of Imperial doomsday technology. Her human determination, the same stubborn refusal to accept defeat that had driven her species to explore the stars, kept her focused on the impossible task. Finally, with a brilliant flash of blue light, the quantum coherence field completely overwhelmed the disruption effect. The deadly energy that had threatened to reduce the entire nebula to quantum foam dissipated harmlessly into space. Sarah collapsed as the strain finally overwhelmed her, but she was smiling. She had just proved that human ingenuity could overcome even the Empire's ultimate weapon. "Status report," she whispered weakly. "All rebel ships secure," Captain Vexer reported. "The Imperial fleet has lost approximately 60% of their vessels to their own weapon. The survivors are in complete disarray, but their celebration was premature." Emperor Zephyron's personal transport was already launching from the crippled Dominion, heading directly for the asteroid base. The Emperor had decided that if technology could not defeat this remarkable human, perhaps personal combat could. The final confrontation between the galaxy's most powerful ruler and its most unlikely revolutionary was about to begin. Emperor Zephyron's personal combat suit was a masterpiece of Imperial technology, standing 12 feet tall and armed with weapons that could level city blocks. As his transport docked with the asteroid base, Every rebel defender knew they were facing their greatest challenge yet. Sarah, still weak from her battle against the quantum disruption field, watched through security monitors as the Emperor's massive form stalked through the base's corridors. His suit's weapons systematically destroyed defensive positions, while its shields deflected return fire with ease. "He's heading directly for the command center," Commander Raxel observed grimly. "He wants you, Sarah. This has become personal for him." "Then maybe we should give him what he wants," Sarah replied, struggling to stand despite Dr. Lingara's protests. "You can barely walk," the tree-like scientist objected. "You cannot possibly face the Emperor in direct combat." Sarah smiled weakly. "Who said anything about direct combat? I'm human, remember? We don't fight fair." As the Emperor approached the command center, Sarah activated a communication channel that broadcast throughout the base and to every rebel ship in the fleet. "Emperor Zephyron," her voice echoed through the corridors. "You've traveled a long way to meet one human student. Why don't we talk face to face?" The Emperor's response was immediate and thunderous. "Come out and face your death, little human. Your technology has impressed me, but you are still just a fragile organic creature." "You're right," Sarah admitted. "I am fragile. My species lives for barely a century. We're physically weak compared to most galactic races, and we have no natural armor or weapons. But we have something you've never understood." The Emperor burst through the command center's main doors, his massive combat suit filling the entrance. Energy weapons charged as he located Sarah standing calmly in the center of the room. "And what is that?" Zephyron demanded. "We adapt," Sarah replied simply. As she spoke, the Emperor realized that the command center was not what it appeared to be. The walls, floor, and ceiling were covered with the same quantum field generators that had defeated his Omega protocol. But these were configured differently, creating not a coherence field but something far more dangerous. "You see, Emperor, while you were making your dramatic entrance, I was studying your combat suit's technology. It's impressive, but it relies on quantum field manipulation for both its structural integrity and its weapon systems." The Emperor's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "You cannot be serious." "I'm very serious," Sarah confirmed. "You brought the Empire's ultimate weapon to my doorstep, and now you've brought their most advanced combat technology. Thank you for the educational opportunities." Sarah activated the modified field generators. Instead of countering quantum disruption, they began selectively destabilizing specific quantum frequencies, the exact frequencies that the Emperor's combat suit used to maintain its advanced functions. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Emperor's weapons powered down as their quantum matrices became unstable. His suit's enhanced strength systems failed as their energy fields lost coherence. Within seconds, the most advanced piece of military technology in the galaxy had become a very expensive prison. "Impossible," Zephyrin growled as he struggled with controls that no longer responded. "Our technology is beyond the understanding of primitive species." "That's your problem right there," Sarah explained as rebel guards surrounded the immobilized suit. "You assume that advanced means better, but sometimes simpler is more effective. Your suit is incredibly sophisticated, which makes it vulnerable to quantum field manipulation. A human in basic armor might have been much harder to stop." Commander Raxel approached the trapped Emperor with obvious satisfaction. "Shall we execute him for his crimes against the galaxy?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "That would make us no better than the Empire. Besides, he's more valuable alive." As news of the Emperor's capture spread throughout the galaxy, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Imperial forces across dozens of systems laid down their arms as their command structure collapsed. Worlds that had been under Imperial rule for centuries declared their independence, while others established new governments based on democratic principles. But Sarah's greatest triumph was yet to come. In the days following the Emperor's capture, she received a transmission from Kepler Station that changed everything. "Sarah, this is Professor Veltar." The crystalline being's familiar voice brought tears to her eyes. "The station has been liberated by rebel forces, and I have extraordinary news. Your zero-point energy technology has been successfully implemented on over 3,000 worlds. But more importantly, your research has inspired a new generation of scientists from every species in the galaxy." The transmission continued with reports from across known space. Universities were abandoning the rigid scientific doctrines that had limited galactic civilization for millennia, instead embracing human-style innovative thinking. Young scientists from dozens of species were creating their own revolutionary discoveries by applying human principles of curiosity and creative problem-solving. "You haven't just given us unlimited energy," Professor Veltar concluded. "You've given us unlimited possibility." Sarah found herself appointed as the head of the new Galactic Scientific Council, a position she accepted with reluctance. She was more comfortable in a laboratory than a leadership role, but she understood the importance of ensuring that scientific knowledge remained free and accessible to all species. The trial of Emperor Zephyron became a galactic event, broadcast to every world in known space. Instead of demanding execution, Sarah advocated for a different form of justice. The Emperor would be required to work alongside the beings he had oppressed, helping to rebuild the worlds his empire had damaged. "Your punishment," Sarah told him during the sentencing, "is to learn what we have always known, that cooperation creates more than conquest ever could." Agent Thax, who had surrendered along with other Imperial forces, proved surprisingly valuable as a reformed ally. His knowledge of Imperial technology and tactics helped ensure that no remnant of the Empire could threaten galactic freedom again. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came when Kixara arrived at the Yao asteroid base aboard a ship full of students from dozens of worlds. "We want to learn," her Altarian friend announced. "Every university in the galaxy is requesting human-style education programs. They want to understand how your species thinks so differently." Sarah laughed, remembering the shy student who had just wanted to solve an energy equation. "I'm not sure I can teach what it means to be human, but I can show you what it means to never stop asking questions." As the new galactic civilization took shape, based on principles of freedom, cooperation, and unlimited scientific exploration, Sarah Chen found herself no longer the most wanted criminal in the galaxy, but its most valued teacher. The revolution that had begun with a simple desire to create clean energy had become something far greater, and a transformation of galactic society itself. And at its heart was a very human truth that Sarah had always known. The greatest discoveries come not from accepting limitations, but from refusing to believe they exist. The honor student had indeed become the most wanted person in the galaxy, wanted not as a fugitive, but as a beacon of hope for unlimited possibility. 5 years after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, Sarah Chen stood before the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on the planet New Terra, a world jointly colonized by dozens of species working together in unprecedented harmony. As the first elected Chancellor of the Galactic Federation, she was about to address representatives from over 800 worlds. The transformation of galactic civilization had exceeded even her wildest dreams. The unlimited clean energy from her discovery had not only freed worlds from Imperial control, but had enabled massive technological advancement across all species. Cities floated in the clouds of gas giants, underwater colonies thrived in ocean worlds, and massive space habitats housed billions of beings living in perfect environmental balance. 5 years ago, Sarah began her address, her voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy through quantum communication networks. "I was just a student trying to solve an energy problem for a class assignment. Today I stand before you as proof that the greatest changes often begin with the smallest actions." In the audience, she spotted familiar faces from her incredible journey. Kixara sat with the Altarian delegation, now serving as head of the new Interspecies Education Initiative. Commander Raxel represented the Carathian systems, his warrior people finally free to pursue their own cultural development. Dr. Quintel floated among the energy-being representatives, his gaseous form shimmering with contentment. Even Emperor Zephyron was present, though his role had changed dramatically. As part of his rehabilitation sentence, he had become an advisor on rebuilding damaged worlds. The former tyrant now worked tirelessly to repair the harm his empire had caused, and many observers noted that he seemed happier in this role than he had ever been as an absolute ruler. The human education protocol has now been implemented in every major university in the galaxy, Sarah continued. Young beings from all species are learning not just facts and formulas, but how to question assumptions, think creatively, and push beyond accepted limitations. The results had been extraordinary. Insectoid engineers had developed living cities that grew rather than being built. Aquatic scientists had created atmospheric processors that could terraform dead worlds in decades rather than centuries. Silicon-based researchers had discovered ways to communicate directly with planetary consciousness, leading to environmental restoration on a galactic scale. But perhaps the most significant development was the emergence of hybrid thinking, young beings from different species working together to combine their unique perspectives in ways that no single race could achieve. Alone, we have learned, Sarah observed, that diversity is not just tolerable but essential for true progress. When different ways of thinking combine, the results exceed what any of us could accomplish alone. The Galactic Federation that emerged from the rebellion was unlike any government in known history. Instead of centralized control, it operated on principles of voluntary cooperation and mutual benefit. Worlds were free to govern themselves while participating in shared projects for the common good. The criminal justice system had been revolutionized along human principles of rehabilitation rather than punishment. Former imperial officers worked alongside their former victims to build better societies. Pirates and raiders were offered education and honest work instead of imprisonment. The galaxy's crime rate had plummeted as beings discovered they could achieve more through cooperation than through exploitation. Scientific advancement had accelerated exponentially under the new system. Without imperial restrictions on research and communication, discoveries made on one world were immediately shared with all others. The quantum communication network that Sarah had helped design enabled real-time collaboration between scientists, separated by thousands of light years. Today, I want to announce our next great project, Sarah declared. For too long, our galaxy has been isolated from others. We know that countless galaxies exist beyond our own, each potentially containing millions of civilizations. It is time for us to reach out and learn from them. The Intergalactic Exploration Project represented the culmination of everything the new galactic civilization had achieved. Using advanced versions of Sarah's zero-point energy technology, massive exploration vessels would be capable of traveling between galaxies, carrying representative crews from every species in the Federation. We go not as conquerors, Sarah emphasized, but as students. We have learned that the greatest discoveries come from encountering new ways of thinking and being. Imagine what we might learn from civilizations that developed under completely different conditions. In the years since the Revolution, Sarah had continued her education, earning advanced degrees in physics, engineering, and xenopsychology. But her greatest learning had come from working directly with beings from hundreds of different species, each offering unique perspectives on existence itself. The human approach to problem-solving had proven to be just one valuable method among many. Crystalline beings thought in geological timescales that revealed patterns invisible to shorter-lived species. Energy beings understood electromagnetic phenomena in ways that purely physical creatures could never match. Each species brought essential insights to the collective knowledge of galactic civilization. As I conclude my term as Chancellor, Sarah announced, I want to thank every being who took the risk of believing that change was possible. You proved that even the most entrenched systems can be transformed when enough people refuse to accept limitations. The next Chancellor would be Takala, a brilliant insectoid diplomat who had developed new forms of interspecies communication. Sarah was stepping down to return to her first love, scientific research and education. She planned to captain one of the intergalactic exploration vessels, continuing humanity's tradition of pushing into the unknown. After the ceremony, Sarah walked through the gardens of New Terra with her closest friends and allies. The planet itself was a testament to cooperative achievement, its biosphere carefully designed to support life forms from dozens of different worlds, its cities blending architectural styles from across the galaxy. Do you ever regret how everything turned out? Kixara asked as they paused beside a fountain that combined water, energy patterns, and crystalline structures in a display that pleased beings with any form of sensory perception. Sarah considered the question carefully. She had lost her simple student life, gained enormous responsibility, and become a public figure whose every action was scrutinized across the galaxy. But she had also helped create a civilization based on freedom, cooperation, and unlimited possibility. How can I regret helping to build this? She replied, gesturing at the diverse beings walking peacefully together through the gardens. A few years ago, most of these species had never even met each other. Now they're working together to explore other galaxies. Agent Thax approached their group, his reptilian features showing the contentment that had replaced his former cold efficiency. Sarah, the first intergalactic vessel, is ready for launch. The crew selection is complete. Representatives from 47 species, including 3 humans. Who are the other humans? Sarah asked curiously. Dr. Rodriguez, a physicist from the Earth colonies, and Captain Williams, a pilot from the Mars fleet, Thax replied. They specifically requested to serve under your command. As the sun set over New Terra, painting the sky in colors that pleased every species' visual perception, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them all to this point. A shy student's desire to solve an energy problem had become a galactic revolution, proving that the smallest actions could have the greatest consequences. The honor student, who had become the galaxy's most wanted fugitive, was now preparing for humanity's greatest adventure, representing their species among the stars of distant galaxies. But she was no longer traveling alone. She was part of a vast community of beings who had learned to value diversity, cooperation, and the endless pursuit of knowledge. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Sarah smiled at the thought of the civilizations they might encounter among those distant lights. Whatever challenges awaited in other galaxies, she was confident that the combined wisdom of hundreds of species would prove equal to any obstacle. The greatest discoveries, after all, always lay just beyond the edge of the possible.